that's it's entirely a reputation protection matter. I mean, the mission here for anybody who gets tied up in this is, number one, stay out of jail. Number two, protect your reputation. And number three, try not to pay out a lot of civil settlements.
And calling for the claim to be actually dismissed. What are you watching for in this case?
Well, Sean Carter, Jay-Z has good reason to ask for this case to be dismissed. The accuser came out and did an interview. Now, we didn't get to see her face. We didn't get to learn her name. But in the interview, she gave some statements that were inconsistent with the statements that, or the accusations, I should say, that are made in her lawsuit. And it does raise serious questions about the credibility of this accuser. These superseding indictments filed against Sean Combs based on these three allegations.
Wait a minute, did we all just hear this? Did and Yeast could both be heading to jail. And it's not just gossip anymore, because allegedly they've got footage, y'all. But hold on, because it gets worse. A prosecutor is now dropping bombshell after bombshell, revealing exactly why these two are in deep trouble. Trust me, this is about to shake up the entire hip-hop world. And I bet you won't believe what's been going on behind the scenes. Well, it all started when a woman who was still going by Jane Doe for now was just filing a lawsuit against both Diddy and Jay-Z, accusing them of a crime that will leave you speechless. She's claiming that back in 2000, when she was just 13 years old, both of these stars forced themselves onto her. This woman is now 38 years old, lives in Alabama. But for the past 24 years, she's kept quiet about this traumatic event. Why? Well, because she didn't think anyone would believe her. I mean, come on now. How does a 13-year-old stand up against two of the biggest names in the music industry? You can blame her for being scared. But now she's ready to speak her truth, and trust me, these alleged details she's sharing are chilling.
You should always advocate for yourself and be a voice for yourself. You should never let what somebody else did run your life.
A 38-year-old mother from Alabama who has filed a lawsuit accusing Sean Diddy Combs and Jay-Z of raping her when she was 13 years old is speaking out to NBC News for the first time.
Now, according to her lawsuit and recent interview with NBC, she says the incident happened at an MTV Video Music Awards after party in 2000. The woman claims she was a 13-year-old girl living in Rochester, New York, with big dreams of being part of the glitz and glam of Hollywood. She snuck out of her house to try and catch a glimpse of the action at Radio City Music Hall. But with no ticket, she ended up outside watching the show on the big jumbotron. That's when she says she met a limo driver who told her he worked for Diddy and could get her into a private after party. Now hold on to your heads, because here's where things get crazy. The driver allegedly told her that Diddy liked younger girls and said she would fit what Diddy was looking for. I mean, what?
Stumbled upon Diddy's driver, who told me that I was exactly what Diddy was looking for.
What did you think when he said that to you?
I thought it meant that I was just pretty.
No, she followed him to a large white house. And when she arrived, two men allegedly asked her to sign something she thinks it was a non-disclosure agreement before letting her inside. Now, if you've been following these accusations that Diddy's been getting, then you know where this is going. She's 13, already in way over her head, and things were about to spiral. But once inside, the party was full of celebrities. People like Fred Durst and G.Y. Madden were allegedly there. But the woman says that after mingling for a bit, she started feeling lightheaded after drink, thinking something handed to her by a waitress. Now, this is where it gets dark, she claims. She ended up in a private room to lie down, and that's when Jay-Z and Diddy walked in. According to her, Jay-Z was the first one to attack her. She says he held her down, put his hand over her mouth, and then R-worded her while she tried to fight back after that. She claims Diddy came in next and forced himself onto her as well. The woman says there was also an unnamed woman in the room watching.
He comes in and me. He at that point I was fighting, trying to get away from him, and he put his hand over my mouth and told me to stop it, cut the
But let's wait a second here and full screech stop. There are definitely some inconsistencies in her story. For example, she talks about meeting Fred Durst and Benji Madden at the after party. But it turns out Benji Madden wasn't even there because he was on tour and her own father doesn't recall picking her up from the gas station, and NBC couldn't verify some of the locations she mentioned. So yeah, there's definitely some holes in her story, and that's something that you just can't ignore.
Wrote home in silence. He didn't ask me what happened. He didn't ask me what I did or where I was.
But she's still adamant about what happened to her. Her lawyer says she's willing to take a polygraph test to prove that she's telling the truth. She's standing strong in her belief that she was ATT, even with the inconsistencies in a statement to NBC News. A representative of the Maidens confirmed that they did not attend the 2000 VMAs and that they were on tour in the Midwest at the time. But here's where it gets crazier. As you know by now, Diddy is already in serious legal trouble. He's been arrested on charges of racketeering, ST, and more. His trial is set for May 2025. But now things have taken a wild turn because Jay-Z is allegedly now involved. And get this, the prosecution allegedly has footage from that night. Word in the street is that the prosecution is sitting on some damning evidence. And this isn't just some random clip. They've allegedly got footage from that night, the night the woman claims everything went down. But that's not all. Apparently, when Diddy's homes were raided, as part of the investigation into his other charges, authorities found multiple recordings of what went down at these so-called free. And he was allegedly hosting guests who might be caught up in these tapes, none other than Jay-Z himself. Now, I know what you're thinking, wait, what about Jay-Z? Well, looking at this woman's account, especially considering some of Jay-Z's past ties to younger people like Foxy Brown, his involvement is looking more and more suspicious. I mean, let's be real a second for a millisecond. When you dig into Jay-Z's history, it's not hard to find rumors and whispers about him having been connected to younger people back in the day. Foxy Brown was a teenager when they started working together, and that already raised a lot of eyebrows even back then. So with all this new evidence coming to light, it's not looking good for him at all.
Talking to Benji Madden about his tattoo because, you know, I have about his tattoo that's the Last Supper because I have a religious background, so it was just something to talk about. One
of the things that stood out to me, Phil, was her father. Her father was also contacted by the news media because in her interview, she says her dad picked her up from Sean Diddy Combs' home after she said that occurred after she said Jay-Z and Sean Combs. Her dad said he had no recollection of this incident.
Now, of course, Jay-Z isn't just sitting back and letting these accusations slide. In fact, he's coming hard on his own with the defense. Jay-Z's attorney, Alex Spiro, wasted no time and immediately asked the court to dismiss Jane Doe's case, calling it stunning that a lawyer would file such a serious complaint without properly vetting the details. First, he even went so far as to accuse the plaintiff's lawyer, Tony Busby, of doing nothing more than peddling a false story in the press to get attention.
I will say that Jay-Z, if he was doing ill like that, he was more quiet about it. You know what I mean? He was more, but then, if we be real with ourselves, it was kind of abnormal when he got with beyonce, like she was pretty young.
But you know, it didn't stop there, because Jay-Z himself issued a statement through his legal team completely rejecting these allegations. He called out Tony Busby for filing a lawsuit claiming that it was all about money and fame, that the whole thing was just a money grab. He said the incident didn't happen, and yet he filed it in court and doubled down in the press. True justice is coming. We fight from victory, not for victory. This was over before it began. This 1800 lawyer doesn't realize it yet, but soon will. Jay-Z is definitely not holding back with these statements. He's standing firm, saying that this whole lawsuit is nothing more than a desperate attempt to make a quick buck.
Hip-hop mogul Jay-Z facing allegation. Sean Carter, his real name, is doubling down against his accuser, saying she's looking for money and fame, releasing a new statement overnight calling for the claims to be actually dismissed.
But that's not all though, because Diddy's legal team also responded slamming the lawsuit as another example of shameful money grabbing. They made it clear that this isn't the first time a planter from BuzzBeast camp has been exposed for being involved in a shady situation, and if they are to be believed, this could be the start and end of the case. The statement read today, for the second time this week, a BuzzBee plaint has been exposed. This is the beginning of the end of this shameful money grab. Let me tell you, y'all, this is getting really interesting with Jay-Z and D, both fighting back with such intense denials. It's clear that they're both gearing up for a battle that's going to play out in the courts and in media for a long time now. As y'all already know, Jay-Z isn't just sitting back and letting these allegations slide. But it's not just the case itself that's heating up. Jay-Z is allegedly going after the victim's lawyer with some seriously shady tactics, was that BuzzBee said, because he's alleging that Jay-Z's team and Jay-Z had private investigators and a bunch of people reaching out to former employees of the firm, their families, including the PLFF family and BuzzBee's family, different people around them, basically to show his power and scared them allegedly, right? Well, Tony Busby, the lawyer representing the woman making the accusations, Miss Jane, though claims that Jay-Z has been using intimidation tactics in an attempt to silence him and his family. Busby went public with some shocking statements, saying that Jay-Z has beating him and his family since the lawsuit was filed, but this isn't just it, he says. She says situation. Busby took 2X to speak out about it, saying that the New York Times reached out to him to ask about Jay's allegations that he tried to extort the rapper. But according to Busby, those claims are bogus and laughable. He fired back saying no one has made any threats. Instead, Busby explained that his firm's approach was nothing out of the ordinary. They sent a standard demand letter seeking mediation. That's right, guys, a demand letter, just like any other lawyer would send when trying to resolve a case, before it even goes to court. This is a common practice in these types of civil lawsuits.
Busby said because he's alleging that Jay-Z's team and Jay-Z had private investigators and a bunch of people reaching out to former employees of the firm, their families, including the plaintiff's family and Busby's family, different people around them, basically to show his power and scare them, allegedly, right?
But that's not all though, because Diddy's legal team also responded slamming the lawsuit as another example of shameful money grabbing. They made it clear that this isn't the first time a planter from BuzzBeast camp has been exposed for being involved in a shady situation, and if they're to be believed, this could be the start and end of the case. The statement read today, for the second time this week, a BuzzBee plaint has been exposed. This is the beginning of the end of this shameful money grab. Let me tell you y'all, this is getting really interesting with Jay-Z and D, both fighting back with such intense denials. It's clear that they're both gearing up for a battle that's going to play out in the courts and in media for a long time now. As y'all already know, Jay-Z isn't just sitting back and letting these allegations slide. But it's not just the case itself that's heating up. Jay-Z is allegedly going after the victim's lawyer with some seriously shady tactics, was that BuzzBee said, because he's alleging that Jay-Z's team and Jay-Z had private investigators and a bunch of people reaching out to former employees of the firm, their families, including the PLFF family and BuzzBee's family, different people around them, basically to show his power and scare them allegedly, right? Well, Tony Busby, the lawyer representing the woman making the accusations, Miss Jane, though claims that Jay-Z has been using intimidation tactics in an attempt to silence him and his family. Busby went public with some shocking statements, saying that Jay-Z has beating him and his family since the lawsuit was filed. But this isn't just a he says, she says situation. Busby took 2X to speak out about it, saying that the New York Times reached out to him to ask about Jay's allegations that he tried to extort the rapper. But according to Busby, those claims are bogus and laughable. He fired back, saying no one has made any threats. Instead, Busby explained that his firm's approach was nothing out of the ordinary. They sent a standard demand letter seeking mediation. That's right, guys, a demand letter, just like any other lawyer would send when trying to resolve a case before it even goes to court. This is a common practice in these types of civil lawsuits.
Jay-Z failed to mention that his law firm sent them a demand letter. And in that demand letter, they never asked for a penny. They just asked for mediation. Now, I will say I did reach out to Attorney Busby's office to clarify what would the mediation be about. Because normally when you mediate, you want to come to an agreement. The agreement is normally money.
Where things got shady, because Busby continued saying that Jay-Z's team wasn't just going after the case. They were allegedly trying to make him the target of a coordinated smear campaign. Busby claims that Jay-Z's people have been harassing his family, offering former clients money to come forward and sue him, and according to Busby, that's not just dirty, it's illegal. Busby didn't hold back either. He went on to say what you are seeing played out now is a coordinated and desperate effort to focus the public's attention on me personally, to avoid attention on the allegations being made by my clients. Sounds like a classic deflection tactic. And to make things worse and more intense, Busby ended with a powerful quote from Shakespeare himself, saying the lady do protest too much methinks not. Busby calling Jay-Z a lady? Yes, that's right. Busby is calling us out as a desperate attempt to distract the public from the real issue, the allegations against Jay-Z. He added that this behavior only reminds him of someone who's guilty and just can't stop protest too much. For Busby's final words, he made it clear that he and his client will not back down. He said, "Let me be clear. We will not be bullied or intimidated by these shenanigans, and our clients won't be silenced." But now things are really eating up, according to the prosecutor. In this case, the investigation has taken a dark turn, and it's not just about the original allegations anymore. It's about the way this entire thing is being handled behind the scenes. The prosecutor claims that Quinn Emanuel, the law firm representing Jay-Z and Diddy, is crossing lines in ways that they shouldn't be. They've allegedly gone after clients' family members and even tried to discredit the case with some dirty tactics. It's getting way too personal, right? But it's gotten even more shady. And now Tony Busby is accusing the defense of being aggressive, but not in a way that's meant to find justice. Now Busby says that investigation has crossed the line that Quinn Emanuel's investigators are doing things they shouldn't do. They're going after clients. They're going after family members. So it's gotten awful personal and awful chippy real quick. The prosecutor says that Quinn Emanuel is going to argue that they were just doing their due diligence. But what's really going on here? The prosecutor believes that they're attacking the messenger instead of addressing the allegations. They're trying to paint Busby as a bad guy, calling him a fancy ambulance chaser who's out here trying to create bogus claims just to generate big settlements for his law firm.
They will argue. I mean, first of all, they're arguing that Busby's a bad guy. They're arguing basically that Busby is a very fancy ambulance chaser, and he is out trying to generate clients, and that in this case, client means person who would like to get a check from Sean Combs or Jay-Z.
Sounds like a case of distracting from the real issue, if you ask me. Instead of focusing on the victim and the allegations, the defense is allegedly trying to turn the attention towards Busby's tactics. They're painting him as someone who's only interested in a big payday, saying that his main goal isn't justice but to collect big checks from Jay-Z and Diddy. And to be honest, the prosecutor says this is reminiscent of the Deshaun Watson C case, where lawyers were accused of being too aggressive in soliciting to come forward. Only in this case, focus is on generating claims, not justice.